Welcome everyone to Health Coach TV. I'm your host, Dr. Shauna, and we have the amazing Brynn Barale here. Hi, Brynn.
Hey, happy to be here.
Awesome. Well, I am so excited for you to be here. This topic here about breast cancer and breast cancer survivors and helping them be thrivers is something that I'm confident that everyone who is watching this video right now, either they have it, or more likely they know someone near and dear to them who has had or has breast cancer. It is extremely common, and unfortunately, and a lot of the attention is paid to kind of getting through it, and then what? And that's where Brynn comes in. So I'm going to give you a proper introduction, Brynn, but you are a wealth of knowledge, and your story is really profound, and I can't wait for you to share that and share all your words of wisdom with our listeners. So here we go. So Brynn Barale empowers long-term breast cancer survivors to lose weight without dieting so they can feel stronger, be confident in the clothes they love, and live a kick-ass life after cancer. After 14 years of being a breast cancer thriver and almost a decade of being a registered nurse, she made a shift to health coaching to help women heal the scars that breast cancer left behind. She believes that just because you had breast cancer, you are no less of a badass, and that life after cancer can kick ass. She lives in the healing mountains of Western North Carolina, just outside Asheville. So please welcome Brynn Barale. Welcome.
Thank you. Yeah, and what you said is so true. Yeah. So I can't wait to dive into this.
Yeah, well, tell everyone what it is that you do now. I always like to start off with that. Tell us, what exactly do you do now?
Yeah, so I empower long-term breast cancer survivors to lose weight without dieting so they can feel stronger, be confident in the clothes they love, and live a kick-ass life after cancer.
And so we're going to dive into, what does that actually even really mean? Why is that important? Why are they not? Because we really focus on the diagnosis part. The treatment part is where all of everybody's attention really goes. And then there's this huge gap for people afterwards where they're navigating, post-cancer anxiety, fatigue, and all of the after effects, and like, now what? And life is not the same. So tell us your story. Tell us, when did this all start for you? What had you get into this line of work? Take us back. Tell us what happened.
Yeah. So over 16 years ago, when I was 26 years old, I was diagnosed with breast cancer. And I had, standard treatment. So surgery, chemo, radiation, and 5 years of some hormone blocking medications. And in that time when treatment was finished, life just felt different. Mm-hmm. I was tired, sluggish, mentally foggy, and I was trying to figure out if this was like my new normal. Like, did I need to accept that this is how the rest of my life was going to be? And I kind of had that moment of realization with myself that no, this isn't how life has to go, right? So I fought it for a bit, though. It wasn't like just overnight, right? I fought it. And after that stage of defiance, I realized that I needed to get out of that depression pit that I'd fell into, because I wanted to get back to myself, back to my own body, being active again, feeling mentally strong as well as physically strong. And now I can say that I'm doing that I am truly living life again, feeling confident. I'm full of energy, full of life, and living a kick-ass life after breast cancer.
Yeah, that's awesome. Now I want to take us all back to what that first line, which was like a little bit of a bomb you just dropped there. 26. 26 to be diagnosed, and I have kids at 26, and so, I didn't have my kids. I have kids who are 26, and also in my professional career as a medical doctor, as a radiologist, I mainly and specifically in ultrasound for much of my career was in ultrasound, and specifically breast ultrasound and thyroid ultrasound were areas of expertise that I had. So I diagnosed a lot of women with breast cancer. I found a lot of those with that ultrasound probe. And we did have some that were in their 20s, but it was the vast minority of people. And that's got to be devastating. I mean, it's always devastating. It's always devastating. So the woman out there listening in your 50s, it's devastating. But in your 20s, when your friends are going out and having fun, and you're supposed to have your whole life ahead of you, and they're maybe getting married or having babies or going to college, or they're like doing things, and to get walloped with this, to just get walloped with that, and it's just a major course correct. It is. I can't imagine that. So when you say, "Hey, I fell into this depression pit," I get it. I don't get it, but I really can't even imagine, what that was like. Tell us a little bit about, what was that like at 26, and like, do you have all the, and what was it like for you? I guess everybody could be different. But what I would say is, if you're 50 and you have breast cancer, there's a really good chance another 40 to 50-year-old woman who also has breast cancer, and you can kind of relate. When you're 26, and so in your extended circle of friends and acquaintances, someone else who's had it. But when you're 26, you probably don't know another 26-year-old or 20-something-year-old with it. So you're feeling even more all alone. And maybe of somebody's mother or grandmother, but not a peer. So tell us a little bit about like that, about what was that like before, and then we'll kind of go into some of the after effects of that.
Yeah, well, so, I could say right to the beginning of the story, even I had found my own lump in my breast, and I remember the day that happened. It's like it happened this morning. I remember that. And I was like, oh, what's that? And of course, got on Google, even though this is 2006, right? So I still was on Dr. Google. And I was like, the first thing that came up was breast cancer. And I'm like, I'm 26. I don't have breast cancer. There must be something else, right? So even just from the very beginning, being like, oh, well, that doesn't apply to me. So I put it off for months before I went to the doctor. And when I went to the doctor, thankfully she was like, this is nothing, but we're going to find that out today. She didn't say come back in 6 months or anything like that, right? So it was like, we're going to figure this out today. And that was amazing looking back.
Yes.
But she was the same thing. You're 26. This is probably just benign, right? So, but then that started the journey, right? Of me finding out that I had breast cancer, being diagnosed 2 days after Christmas, the whole thing, right? It was like, oh my gosh, what's going on here? But it's funny because at that appointment, I started the appointment with, oh, maybe I would like to have babies in the next couple of years, right? Okay, so, should I be off of my birth control pills? What does that look like, right?
Yeah.
And then it went to, oh, by the way, I also found this lump in my breast. And all of a sudden it was like, well, who cares about the babies, right?
Yes.
And that was kind of what I had to do with myself too, was put on those blinders for several years of well, babies might not be in my future. So that was the first thing, right? Being at that age and being like, yep, this is not happening.
Yeah.
Then being in treatment. And I remember being in the oncology office, in the waiting room and looking around, and I'm like, nobody else is everybody else is way older than me, and you could see the pity on their face, looking at you well, why is she here? And it was just that there was no, like you said, I had a hard time finding support for someone who's going through something like that was in a similar situation to me. And I think that was the biggest divide in that was why is this going on and what can I do about it kind of situation, so.
Yeah. And man, now you were a nurse subsequently.
Yes.
And you had shared with me that this whole experience inspired you to become an RN. And is that the support in the system from a nursing perspective, there must have been something there where you're like, oh, someone you're like, I really appreciate them helping me with this. Like, they didn't cause me to have it. And this might not be the best thing ever, but they're making this journey easier. This nurse or that, I would like to be able to do that for someone else. Is that kind of sort of how you got into nursing?
Yeah, that was absolutely it. I had the town I was diagnosed in where we live now, here in Asheville. And we had moved here, 6 or 7 months before I was diagnosed. So had no family in the area too. And these people became my family. Like I was seeing them, at least on a weekly basis, more often than that. They were calling me, asking me how I was doing. Like I had wonderful support from my family and friends too, but these people I was seeing all the time. And I was like, I want to be that for someone else. Like this was amazing. I know those people made a difference on my outcome, right? Like that, their personalities, their everything just helped me so much. And it was like, I want to be that for someone else, even if it's just one person.
Yeah.
I will be fine with my life.
Yeah.
So that's what got me into nursing.
And so during the treatment, everybody's measuring everything and they're taking the testing everything, and it's close support. And then, so it's support, it's great, it's good. And then, okay, you're done and your treatments are done. And then that is where the gap that you discovered really was, because there's lots of money pouring into fundraising and research, and there's lots of there's people, there's treatment plans and whatever, you agree with them or you don't agree with them, but there's lots of stuff there. But then you graduate from that treatment, and then what? Then what happened? And that's kind of where that was where you're like, wait, whoa, like that was bad. But tell us a little bit about after the treatment's done. Thankful to be here, but tell us about that.
Yeah, so that was it, right? So you have all this excitement around finishing treatment, and oh my gosh, like I was so fed up with radiation. And I remember being like, I can't wait till this is done. And then it was finally done. And I had the certificate and I rang the bell and I did all the stuff, right? And it was like, after like that dust, like after that settled, right? And it was like, what do I do now? Like nobody was calling to remind me of appointments. I wasn't going into the doctor's offices all the time. Like it was suddenly like Brynn's back to normal. She doesn't have cancer anymore, right? The support, the cards in the mail and the food and all the stuff just kind of came slowly to a halt. And it was like, okay, this is really strange. This is what I asked for, but now I don't know what to do with this. Yeah. Like, I'm just supposed to go back to work?
Yeah.
Like, oh, wait, no, I can't do that. Like, I struggled in that space. I, lived off of chocolate chips and stayed in my pajamas for days. Yeah. Like, literally, like, just stuck in that space.
Yeah. And and that carried on for a period of time, and then eventually kind of like you're like, okay, I'll become a nurse and stuff like that. But in the whole time, there's still this, it's still not it. And you're kind of like feeling like you're missing out on, on like you're not actively, it's not your life anymore. It's not the same anymore. Tell us about like, how did you go from there? So that's our new like point A, our new problem. What am I supposed to do with this life now that I have it, but what do I do? So how did you get from like point A to point B, or tell us more about that? Because now you're living a kick-ass life after cancer. Woohoo, great. Okay. But there's a little bit of a journey in there, and kind of tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah, there's definitely a journey in there, right? I did not just get from one right to the other. So I came to a realization that I was missing out on stuff
Mhm.
because of the depression that I was in, and that it was not acceptable to be there,
Yeah.
and that I had to find an answer. And so I just dug into tons of research, reading books, watching documentaries, doing all the things, right? And it was like, okay, what matters? Like, how can I get out of this? And it was like, the things that you put in your body matter, the things that you put on your body matter. So your health and beauty products, and
Yeah.
how you move your body matter.
Mhm.
And there's a commonality between those, your body, right?
Yeah.
So yes, I have control over this.
Yeah.
If there's one thing in life, right? Yeah, cancer, diseases, things like that come and go.
Yeah.
But I have control over this. And it was like, all right, so what can I do today?
Right.
Okay. I remember the day I went to the grocery store and I bought a head of red cabbage. And I was like, now what do I do with this? I know this is good for me. It's beautiful. I'm supposed to eat the rainbow, right? So it was like, okay, let's pay attention to that red cabbage. And I found so much joy in that process of buying the real food, making something with the real food, tuning in and listening to my body and being like, what do you need? Like, what's going on? And food was like the introduction to that. By eating the rainbow and experimenting with these new foods, it lit me up. And I was like, this is it. And I climbed out of the depression that I was in. I lost the weight that I gained, and I felt like on top of the world. Like, I was strong and energetic, and like, I can't even say I was my old self again. I was better than my old self again.
Yeah. So awesome. There you go. So, and that's the Brynn that I know. And so that's great. So is that what made you decide to become a health coach? Like seeing these, knowing that, because you were in there, you saw the waiting rooms full of other women with this. So you're like, so is that what you're like? Oh man, if I'm struggling, I bet you others are too. And I've just kind of cracked the code on this a little bit. And is that why you decided to become a health coach?
Yeah, because making that switch from taking care of sick people as a nurse to truly helping my clients to wellness as a health coach, like that was shaped because of my experience.
Yeah.
I wouldn't be who I am today if I didn't have that experience.
Yeah.
And, sometimes I say that I made cancer survivorship my superpower. And I feel like this is what I was meant to do. This was meant for me. And I just need like a sparkly cape or something to wear it loud and proud. But, but helping people as a health coach is pretty much as close to a shiny cape and being that's it.
And it's really being, the thing that appealed to you, it sounds like the thing that appealed to you, the support, that family, the Miller family feel that you saw in the nurses when you're going through the treatment, then, and there's lots of nurses and they're doing their thing and that's all great. But seeing that support and that guidance and like taking someone, through the path is what was missing in the after effect, after what happens to all these people that they're just supposed to go resume like nothing happened. Not possible. Something major just did happen. And so what does that look like? Like, how do you work with people? Like, how does, a lot of people don't even know what a health coach is. People watching this usually do. But, how do you work with your clients? Who do you work with? How do you work with? Tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah. So the majority of my clients are breast cancer survivor and thrivers, and they're struggling with stubborn weight gain. A lot of them tell me that they feel like they're damaged goods after treatment. And so they're looking to lose weight and feel stronger and just embody that living a kick-ass life after cancer.
Yeah.
So I hold their hand and I take them one little step by one little step and just have these building blocks through a program. And I take them from being in that slump and having all those pity parties for themselves to losing the weight and feeling like a badass again and being on the other side of that And, when I'm working closely with my clients and holding them accountable and giving them this loving support, they know exactly what they need to do to step out of the shadow of cancer, to lose weight, and to get back to living life. It's really just purely amazing to see them get these results. And it's really what drives me every day to help every breast cancer survivor and thriver that I can, so that they can lose weight without dieting.
Yeah, awesome. And yeah, you're such a champion for them. It's your mission. You're passionate about it. You're such a great, loving leader of these women, and they can use it. And so tell us, like, whenever I'm doing these interviews, and your world, your area of expertise here with this, and I like to always, because you'll have a unique perspective, and I like to tap into some of that and share that with the audience here. So what's the biggest myth that you would say surrounding this topic about living life after breast cancer? What would you say the biggest myth people have?
Yeah. So I think it goes back to what we started with, right? That gap. There's that gap. And it's like, I think there's this myth that life just goes back to normal when you're done with treatment. Mm-hmm. And there's this huge lack of aftercare for breast cancer survivors. And that lack of care leaves you feeling really isolated and confused and overwhelmed. And it's like, what do I do next? And I think, like, for myself, like, I couldn't even think about what to do next. I was just so stuck. Yeah. And I feel like that's where I like want to save every one of them, right? I want to step in right then and be like, don't walk around depressed and overwhelmed like I did. Yeah. I did that for close to 5 years. And it's like, don't do that. Like, let me help you get out of that. Right. And it's like every follow-up appointment that you have brings these feelings of anxiety and like just waiting around for something else to happen. And nobody needs to live like that. Like, we should be waiting around for the next awesome thing to happen, the next fun thing to happen. Yeah. So there's that. The gap is the biggest myth, like that gap doesn't exist, but there's a huge gap there. Yeah, no,
I think that's really important. And that myth that you just go back to normal, and it's not normal. And so for those who maybe haven't experienced it themselves, or just to share, like, hey, you understand what it's like. What is different? Like, why isn't it just back to normal? You got the stamp, you rang the bell, okay, you're good to go. What is different? And there might be some things that are better now, and some things that are more challenging or lingering now, but it's not the way it was. I think 100%, it's not going to be like it was the day before you were diagnosed. The life has changed. So give us an example of some things that, from your perspective, like in what way is it not back to normal?
Yeah. So for myself, I have a huge perspective change about, like, not sweating the small stuff anymore. Yeah. Right? Like being stuck in traffic. Oh, well, turn on some great music, listen to a podcast, like, just be thankful that you're stuck in traffic, yes. Or, being in the long line at the grocery store, wishing that you were at home instead. It's like, well, you know what? I picked the time to be at the grocery store. Just give into it. I've sensed the urgency of people behind me and be like, why don't you go ahead of me? Like, just get up there. Like, it's okay. So there's those kinds of changes. Or maybe taking the long way, driving the long way, having the windows down, again, playing some great music, and just being like, let's just seize the day for what it's worth, and everything else will be fine. Like, it's going to be okay. Where before cancer, I was not like that. Yeah. I don't know that I would say I was uptight, but I definitely worried about the small things.
Yes.
So,
yeah. No, for sure. And so that would be like one of those things that is sort of a benefit, an appreciation for just being able to breathe in air. And then what kind of after effects are there? Like, you've been through treatment. What are some of the challenges that, they don't have that diagnosis label, maybe they'll still have it attached. I don't think you ever can shake it off. It's still there in the background anyways, at least. But what are some of the actual maybe physical effects that many people have? And yes, they're like, okay, thankful to be alive, but I'm living with this physical challenge. What are some of the challenges that people find themselves in when they've survived before they've thrived, basically?
Yeah, great question. So, a lot of the common complaints and things that I had myself would be, dealing with mental fog, brain fog, lack of mental clarity for sure. And that is, there's chemo brain. So if you've had chemo, that's associated with that. But then also just, the change in your body chemistry that happens from all of the things that happen to you after breast cancer, whether you're on hormone blocking medications, maybe you had to use steroids while you were on chemo, those disrupt everything too. So it is that brain fog and joint pain and restless nights and hot flashes. And, you also have there's a change, I would have to say, that all those things bring, and just your lack of confidence that you have with yourself, and maybe just even how you're interacting with others. It just can compound so much. Yeah.
No, that's good. Okay, so there's undoubtedly, as we said, almost everybody who's listening knows somebody who has breast cancer, or maybe they've had it themselves. So what are some tips that you can share with them? You've helped a lot of women remarkably alter the trajectory of their life, in many ways. But what are some couple of tips that you could share with our viewers that are like, okay, well, this all sounds good. I want to live that great life. Well, what do I do? And so what would be some of the, just a couple of simple tips, easy to do, that they could implement?
Yeah, I love to keep it simple. So let's keep it simple, right? So my number one tip that I would recommend to get onto the other side, to kicking ass after cancer, would be to take a walk every day. And when you're doing that, taking a walk, you're checking the box of physical activity, right? Moving your body. But there's also so much research that has been done that shows the benefits of spending time outside, and that makes us happier, which is really key, and healthier. So taking a walk every day is huge. Like I said, you can check off 2 things with that, right? So it's awesome. And then my other tip that I have is to sneak veggies into everything. Okay. And my favorite things to do that are frozen spinach and frozen cauliflower. And you can sneak those into smoothies, into muffins, into your lasagna. I mean, everything. And here's the other thing. Nobody will notice. I promise you. Okay. My kids don't notice. My clients are always surprised. They're like, you're right. I don't even notice it's there. And I'm like, yes.
Yeah. I love that. It's sneaking it in. It's a big boost of phytonutrients, and it's quick. So it doesn't matter how busy you are. If you're busy, just to throw and to have it frozen, so it's not going to go bad, like in the fridge, so it's quick. Instead of ice cubes or something in your smoothies, throw that frozen in there, and it's a great way to sneak it in. That's a huge thing. That's a nice simple tip, but boy, that's actually, both of those, you getting out, walking in nature, and those vegetables, those might sound simple. They are easy to do, easy not to do, but really easy to do. And it makes a difference. That's awesome, Brynn. Thanks. Yeah. So you mentioned about walking. let's dive into that a little bit. Why is moving your body just so gosh darn important for this?
Yeah. So moving your body is important, right? And I know that's not a novel idea. We've all heard that. Okay. But the reason why it's so important is that it really helps you relieve your stress. And that when you're relieving your stress, you can just be well and be at ease. It's also a way to strengthen your muscles, and that helps you age gracefully. It also helps ease some of those joint pain that you have. And the biggest thing, though, and this is especially for breast cancer survivor and thrivers, is that it has this role in helping you connect again with your body. And that I find that breast cancer survivor and thrivers ignore their body after treatment. And I know for myself, this was true. And I did that, and I can laugh about it. I did that because I felt betrayed by it. Like, I took really good care of my body, right? I was 26 years old and I still got breast cancer. It's like, I mean, come on, like what? Right? Yeah. So there was that struggle to trust my body again. And so walking and physical activity and moving your body helps you get that connection again. And for myself, finding what kind of physical activity worked best for me helped me tune in and listen and learn to love my body again. And it also, bonus benefit, helped me with the brain fog and that mental clarity that I really needed help with. So it's kind of, again, you can check a lot of boxes by moving your body.
Yeah. No, I love that, Brynn. And so just pick up on a couple of things that you said there. So the mental clarity, I know when my dad had a stroke and he's in the hospital, and, you know, as he's trying to get up walking, but as his physical walking improved, as we got him to do that, his brain improved. The two coincided. Hard to know which came first, the chicken or the egg, but if you can at least get moving physically, it does help that. I know myself, if I'm wrestling with a problem and I'm too in my head, just getting out and going for a walk in nature can absolutely, like, ideas, fresh perspective, fresh air, fresh perspective are really helpful. And so, you know, it makes sense. Of course, it's going to help with mental clarity. And, you know, lots of studies showing, you know, just by walking, you boost your white blood cells, you improve your immune system. So that's a good thing. And yeah, so really great. I even like what you were talking about in terms of aging, because as we get older, certainly wasn't a concern when you're 26, but you know, all of us, that's the direction we're going. You know, sarcopenia, muscle wasting, and bone loss, and that. And so by just doing that core walking has tremendous spin-off benefits, and it's, you know, it's not about being a gymnast or, you know, anything like that. It's just simple walking, which is really helpful and really functional, and it does boost your mood. It does help. Hard to get going sometimes, like from the couch to the door is hard, but once you're there, it just gets easier and easier and easier and easier, and that. So I like that. You talked about, I'm not sure if it was with this question or the last question, you talked about you know, getting out in nature. And I know you know, you're always researching and you're reading, and talk a little bit about the, you know, all walking is good, but especially walking in nature and some of the benefits there. And I think you were sharing something about a Japanese doctor for treatment or something. Tell us a little bit about that, because that's cool too.
Yeah, so there's a lot of research done about experiencing awe, right? And that awe is an emotion. And it's something that we can cultivate without having to go to some far off place. And one of the biggest ways to cultivate that sense of awe is to be in nature. And so, yeah, so that could be in a park in your neighborhood, or going for a hike in the woods, or stepping into, if you have a yard, stepping into your own yard and staring up at the trees and the clouds, and how that lowers our stress response, our cortisol levels. It helps get back that circadian rhythm. So resetting that internal clock. So it can help you sleep better. It can help your metabolism. Like you said, it can help your immune system, which, goodness, mine was total junk after treatment, right? I was sick all the time. So building up your immune system is something really important to do after treatment for cancer. So that time in nature gives you that sense of awe. And you can do that, like I said, you don't have to go far away. Like you can take a walk in your neighborhood, especially this time of year, like seeing the trees bloom and the flowers, like, and just wondering, like, they do that every year. Oh my gosh, like that's amazing. And that connection is a connection to something greater than ourselves, whatever you want to call it. And that's pure magic.
Yeah.
Right.
Awesome. Yeah. That's awesome. Yeah. Fantastic. So what are some of the spin-off benefits? I always ask about that because, the body's all connected. And then as you help them like lose weight without dieting, and, feel fantastic. Give us like maybe a couple of examples of clients you've worked with that had like, yeah, that got better, but also some other spin-off benefit. Because I always like those bonus benefits that happen.
Yeah. So one of my clients calls this the Brynn effect. Okay. It's kind of like the ripple effect. And that's when the Brynn effect is, when one person in the household starts making changes, slowly the entire household gets on board and makes changes too. And this happens no matter how resistant these family members are. Like, for example, I had one client who was looking for this lifestyle transformation after breast cancer. She wanted to lose those stubborn pounds and feel like herself again. And she knew that this was going to be her journey. Like she started off like, this is going to be for me because nobody else is coming around with me. They're going to eat the old stuff that they want to, and that's fine. So in that process, she lost those stubborn 15 pounds, which was awesome. But the Brynn effect was that as she cooked these meals for herself, like her husband and her daughter and son would be like, what are you doing? And then slowly they'd be like, maybe I'd like to try that. And then like literally within a very short period of time, they were all eating the same meal. Mm-hmm. And not only did she lose that 15 pounds, but her husband came off of his blood pressure and cholesterol medication. I mean, so that's the Brynn effect, right? It's the power of one person making changes and how that just trickles into everybody else. And it's awesome because I ran into her recently at yoga and she was like, the Brynn effect is still happening. And I'm like, yay, it just makes me so happy. It just makes me so happy.
Yeah. Awesome. I love it. And I was going to say like her, what is it? 15 pounds, and your weight too. Like you had 5 years and it wasn't like, you waited. I kind of cut you off there and you can share more stories here, but I was just thinking, when you said, you were in that depression and that not feeling good and no energy and you're like, don't wait that long. Like I was in that for 5 years and I just want to clarify. It wasn't like, oh, you had breast cancer. You didn't quite feel like yourself, but 5 years later you were back to normal. That's not what happened at all. Like it was just like 5 years later, enough's enough. I got to do something about this. And this last woman, like how long had she had that, for example, just like the stubborn 15 pounds that she had, like how long was she trying to lose it without any, and get her energy back and get all those things back? How long had she been struggling with that?
Yeah, she was in that 7 to 8 year mark after treatment. Yeah. Yep. So it'd been hanging around a while and she kept thinking, oh, it'll go away. And it didn't. And, that's the big thing too. A lot of these treatments for breast cancer, they change your body composition and your body chemistry. So it makes what maybe worked before, like it doesn't work anymore.
Great. Yeah.
Like you have to try something new.
Yeah. So, well, and for you at 26, and then with the treatment, it was like sudden menopause. Like it was like in an instant. So, we talk about how that later. So definitely what worked for you at 25 is not working for you at 26. Definitely.
Sure. Yeah.
Definitely. I think I cut you off there. I think you're going to share another example of a client and some spin-off benefits.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Thank you. So, so another client had lost 20 pounds. And in that process of that weight loss, she no longer had that afternoon slump. She always was like, I hit a wall every afternoon. I reach for coffee and cookies and cake and whatever to push me through to get dinner ready so I can sit on the couch, right?
Mm-hmm.
So she no longer had the afternoon slump. She was off her pain medications because of her joint pain. She had terrible joint pain from the hormone blockers. And so she was no longer requiring the pain medication for that. And the best part was, I remember the day that she sent me a text message that said that she was feeling like a teenager again. And I was like, what? Like, this is amazing. Like, how did I take 40 years off of you, right? In this period of time? It was so amazing. And then the bonus benefit of all of this, right, is as we worked together, we were able to clear her eczema that was diagnosed after her cancer. And it was one of those things. She was like, oh, I just, slather everything on because I can't ever make it go away. And we helped her that from flaring. And it was like, that was the pure, like, just most awesome reminder of how everything in our body is connected, and how when we change one thing to lose weight, we can heal the joint pain, the energy, and skin conditions too. I mean, it's just amazing what can happen when you lower the inflammation in somebody's body.
Yeah, everything just is a great ripple effect, or Brynn effect, as your clients say. I love that, the Brynn effect. That makes so much sense. Yeah, I mean, you're just such a blessing to all of your clients. Such a bright light, someone who understands, someone who's like, can get in there in the grit of it. You've been there, you know what it's like, you've seen the darkness, the depths, but you've come out stronger, and you know how to, you can guide them with compassion and empathy, but just say, light the path for them and say, here, try this, do this, throw some frozen broccoli and cauliflower into that, lasagna, throw some, there's ways to make it easier for you and go for a walk around the woods. Let's do that. And those shifts allow people to like walk on out of it, and how fun to like meet a, former client afterwards who still lost the weight, still kept the weight off, and the effect is continuing in her family and in her life. Like, just, it doesn't get any better than that. And so just massive thanks to you, Brynn, for doing the work that you do. The challenges you had were no light feat, especially for a young woman, but you've certainly, risen above and now can help so many more because of what you had to go through, and really helping people with that. We were talking earlier about the thing that people often have is, you mentioned about, I feel like my body betrayed me, or you're feeling really vulnerable, or you feel like, well, what did I do? What did I do to cause this? And like, honestly, 26 years old, you didn't do anything, and it is as it is. So now what? And it's really like doing such a good job of taking any blame or shame or guilt or fear, or just dialing all of that stuff down so that you can live a kick-ass life after cancer. I mean, that stuff has to go away so that you can move forward with light and love and ease. And I mean, I think you said, like, it's like your superpower, like, like it's better now, like, because of what you had been through, you are stronger, you are leaner than you would have been if you hadn't had this experience. You wouldn't have, paid so much attention potentially to your nutrition and your, and lifestyle, and appreciated the sunset and the clouds and the trees and all of that. So yeah, just marvelous what you're doing. So for those people that are listening here, how can they get in touch with you? How can they ask you a question? How can they reach out to you? What's the best way for them to do that?
Yeah, so the best way is on my website, which is coachbrynb.com. And Brynn is Brynn. Or you can also follow me on Instagram at Your Kick-Ass Life After Cancer. And I'm posting good stuff on there all the time.
Yeah, you certainly are. So coachbrynb.com. That's coach B, let me start again. coachbrynb.com. That's coach Brynn, BRYNN.com. B for Barale. Yeah, so awesome. And we'll put a link there in the description of this, or on Instagram, it's Your Kick-Ass Life After Cancer. So check Brynn out. She's got lots of good tips and stuff. And always, I think you even have a free starter kit or something on your website, something like that. Yeah. Yep. So you can check that out, head on over there. And I know you're super generous with your time and happy to answer questions. So, well, it was an absolute pleasure, Brynn. So thank you to all of you joining us and watching this episode. Super appreciate you. It's why we do these episodes. And if you have a question or a topic that you would like to know more about, feel free to pop that in the comments. And that's it for this episode of Health Coach TV. Be sure to like and subscribe for more Health Coach TV episodes and lots of great health tips. All right, be good for you.